Welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live here Friday, the 13th. And it's time for What Just Happens. We look back at the insanity of the week. We only have two returning champs because they're that amazing. Spehar is back, political advocate, creator of Under the Desk News, which has over 3 million followers on TikTok, even more. A Gen Z millennials go-to source for news. Great to see you, my friend.
Good to see you.
And look who's here. Hal Sparks is back, comedian. You know him
That's
from everything
right.
from Talk Soup to Queer as Folk to the Stephanie Miller Sexy Liberal Tour. Of course, he has his own show on Twitch and YouTube, Infotainment's Wars. Hal Sparks, good to see you.
What's happening? Yes. Infotainmentwars.com. We don't need the documents. We've got everything memorized. And it doesn't matter anyways, because they don't care about facts. So, yeah. Hi.
Hal doesn't even need a question. Hal's ready to go.
He's ready to go.
Hal.
I'm like Kamala Harris at the beginning of the debate. I don't care what your question is. If you're not giving me an opening statement, I'm going to fire away because I'm introducing myself.
Yes.
Well, okay. And what do you think about, let's start with the handshake thing. I wrote about it. She had him at the handshake.
Brilliant.
Because if you see the picture, she went behind, crossed the midpoint, went behind the lectern, and he was running away. And there were many experts, I quoted in my article, body language experts said that was a power move. She showed him in the first second and unnerved him. So we'll start with you, then we'll go to Hal. Since it's only a couple, we'll just have a conversation. But Hal, so what, or V, I'm sorry, V, what was your reaction to that? Anything else that stood out at the early part of the debate?
So I had talked to Simone Sanders earlier in the day, and we were taking bets on like if she was going to do the handshake or not. And Simone thought she wouldn't. And I was like, I don't know, she might. And I was glad that she did for two reasons. One, she went in there with the handshake. Two, he's so easily flattered that I feel like it lowered his guard, and her first digs really penetrated through what armor might have been there. And she said, Kamala Harris. He never used her name throughout the entire debate, but she made damn sure that he should know how to say it, and that if he said it wrong, it would be clear that he was ignorant.
He wouldn't even look at her, let alone say her name.
Couldn't. He couldn't look at her.
So what is your take of the first part? Then we'll dig down a little bit deeper into the debate.
Yeah, the primary one was that I'm a big believer that if had Hillary Clinton, and she was carrying the weight of being the first woman running in a legit way, that during her debate with him, if she'd have just turned around and said, would you go stand over there? I've dealt with enough children in my life already, or something to that effect. Like a softball piss off to him when he was lurking would have flattened his entire approach. It really would, but she felt like, trapped by the idea that a woman is emotional and she can't respond. And how's she going to deal with Putin if she can't deal with him standing there? It's the same tactic they're using on Kamala Harris right now. But Kamala Harris learned from that. And she learned from the birtherism of, that Trump used against Obama, and basically diffused both bombs at the same time, walking across into his space, shaking his hand when everybody else said they wouldn't. And he wasn't even going to acknowledge her. You could tell, by the way, after the shake, he walked straight to the podium and looked straight ahead. And my girlfriend made the point that like somebody said to him, if you don't look at her, it's going to drive her nuts. This will be the way you trigger her. And some idiot around, whether it was Loomer or Corey Lewandowski or one of these scumbags, are like, you know what chicks hate, right? Just ignore the bitch, right? That's literally what they were selling to him. And he tried it, and it just looked like he was afraid. It looked like he was afraid. If I look at her, I will melt. And the whole time, it was perfect.
It was, and the only preparation Trump did was to say, I'm speaking. Do you remember that line?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you don't say, do you remember that line? You just make the point and you expect the audience to get it. But he had to be like, you see what I did there? I called back something from 4 years ago. I want everyone to know that was a line she actually said. I'm like, you're an idiot. You're so gilding the lily. Just shut up. You're supposed to go like,
he can't even do you're fired right. So watch all of his rallies. And they've been reincorporating the "you're fired" part. Okay. That's a sales line from The Apprentice. It's the most famous line he's associated with besides MAGA or whatever. And he can't even get it out. He can't even deliver the goddamn line. Like as a sideline adjunct producer, I'm standing there going, shut the fuck. He does this whole thing. We're going to tell Comrade Kamala Harris when she's up there that you're fire, get out of there. We don't even like you anymore. Like, shut up, say the line and stop talking. Let the audience ride the way. He can't even do it because he didn't come up with the line. That's from The Apprentice, and he can't get credit for it in his own mind. So if he can't get 100% credit for something, he's got to throw all of himself all over it to go, I can improve this. It's why he wanders from the teleprompter all the time and gets himself in trouble, because they're smart. They're putting together these policy speeches for him. And if he just stuck to him, like Chachi says, he might be okay with certain voters, but he can't do it because it means admitting that somebody else helped him, or that he had somebody else helped him phrase something or reword something. And his ego is so friggin' weak, he can't do it.
Can't do it. So and I think it's so funny that he has to gild the lily too on "you're fired." Instead of being, the line is right, "you're fired," and pause, crowd goes crazy. It's just like, "You're fired," like the line from my show. Remember the show years ago?
Yes.
Fired? Like, shut up. Just say you're fired. He used to be, I mean, I have to be honest. There was a time when Donald Trump was a good performer. I hated it, but he had a way of working a room. He felt it instinctively.
He had an editor.
Right. He had an editor?
He will know this from TikTok. He had an editor. That some people are good live and other people need an editor. And the editor is actually the timing.
For his Apprentice stuff, He was the speaker at my college graduation at the peak of the Apprentice time.
Did you go to Trump University?
No, I went to Wagner College on Staten Island, and they had him come be the commencement speaker, and all of us were like, what the hell? And his speech was literally, if you come to a wall, don't let it stop you. Go over the wall, go through the wall, let nothing stop you from a wall. It was like, and then he went on like a rant about how he was having problems with the banks. My mom has this recorded, and I posted clips of it to TikTok here and there, but he was like, the banks are terrible, the jobs are terrible. And it was the worst commencement speech you've ever heard in your life. But he's a nightmare. And I think any preparation that Tulsi Gabbard had given him went out the door somewhere between her ending that prep with him and Laura Loomer getting on the plane with him. He was full of Laura Loomer by the time he got on that stage.
That's interesting choice of words.
I said it specifically that way and not the other way.
I think
there is something very suspicious and strange going on there.
Judge Report, just a short time ago, Judge Report put a picture of them together. I shared that picture earlier because I was saying
video of them.
They were on the plane together. All of a sudden, the next day they were here in New York together. So someone stayed overnight. I have to be honest. Yep. And I said, folks, I think there's something going on, and it's relevant not in the sense of, is he having an affair? She's the female David Duke, so it's kind of relevant for a presidential candidate. Yeah. You're having an affair with a female David Duke, who's a vile, despicable person. The new picture, if you haven't seen it in the front page Judge Report, it's from a 9/11 memorial, because it was actually part of an article Chris Hayes happened to share. I took the grab. I'm like, everyone, look at this. They are touching. I'll be graphic as you can. Her breasts are against his body. I'm looking at the picture right now.
Very intimate.
But I'm saying, and they're looking, and it's like the glow of an early relationship. Like I agree. Had sex for the first time. I mean, that's very
here's
weird.
Where I think that fucks him up, though, a lot is it's not just like he's having an affair or whatever. This is a philandering man who is constantly flattered by this stuff. I'm not surprised by that. Right. The thing where I think it's messing him up a whole ton is this is giving him a certain level of distraction and confidence that he was lacking. He was in great decline. He hasn't had the crowds and the rallies that he had before. And now this, seeming to him very beautiful, very young woman is like falling all over him. And he has that like dude bro confidence back. You could see it in the way he's hugging her in the pictures, and he's like, it's like he's back on Epstein's plane, baby. We're back, Right. But I think that is distracting him from the task at hand, because in his mind, he's just waiting to get back to the gratification of that constant adoration from this woman. And he's allowing her to fill his mind with her talking points. That cats and dogs stuff came from her. A lot of it came from her.
And flattery. It's the perfect mix to control this man. Also, I don't know. Also, I think he's probably turned on by the idea that he was 40 something when she was born. Right. And on top of that, maybe he has a jigsaw fetish.
Well, Melania's not around. So, I mean,
she didn't show up anywhere.
No, she's alone. He's very alone.
He's 78. She's 31. And people go like, well, look, why would he connect with her? Well, when you're 78, someone's 31. I mean, this is a huge gap. She looks young. It gives him a sense of youthfulness. I mean, that's a lot of times he's got older guys have affairs with women. It makes them feel better about themselves. Like, look, a young woman.
Beyond that, I don't even think it's complicated going into the sort of primal aspect of evolutionary biology. This guy trades up for a younger model every 14 years or so. Right. Like, and it's overdue right now because of public scrutiny. But he'd have done it if he'd have lost the election. He'd have broomed her. He'd have broomed Melania right after Barron was born. Right. he didn't care. He really doesn't.
Do you feel any sympathy at all for Melania in any way?
No. No,
that was easy.
No, she participated in the birtherism too. She's totally friggin' gross. Now, I don't blame her for what the AI version of her selling her book that they're posting online is. That's obviously it's so digital. Like they're like, oh, deepfakes. What a perfect way to make his wife say his actual name again.
The only person I have any sort of empathy or sympathy for is Barron Trump for two reasons. One, growing up in the White House was very difficult. He's super tall. He sticks out like a thumb. And they keep trying to put on him, he was going to be a Republican delegate. He's so handsome. He's so this, he's so that. He's going to NYU. He's doing his own thing. So I feel bad for him for the fact that he is going to be burdened by the Trump name in a way that I don't know that he, out of all of the children, deserve. And his mother's book that just comes out, Melania, which is supposed to be her memoir, is very like Oedipus-y about how much she loves Barron and what it was like to raise Barron. And it's like seemingly a lot more about her relationship with Barron than it is her relationship with Trump. And I don't know that this boy is asking for any of this. I think he just wants to live his life. And I hope he gets to at some point. That is the only Trump person that I feel like deserves their own way and to be able to separate themselves from all this.
Yeah, because he was a kid during most of it and stuff. It's,
can't help it.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to talk about nature versus nurture, or a total lack thereof. You're just being spoiled by evolutionary biology and a shitty home environment on all measures. Imagine that douchebag being your dad, and the the twists you go through as a son, trying to go like, do I emulate this guy at all? He is my father, or do you just recognize that my father is the worst example of manhood that exists on the planet right now?
I think we'll get a good twist. I think we'll get a good twist out of Barron Trump someday, because I know people who were close, who were in Trump's cabinet before, and they said you can't even believe that this is his father if he didn't look just like him as a young Trump, but they are equally opposite. And I think Barron Trump has a more foundational, maybe Melania gave that to him, maybe the White House staff or the nannies gave it to him. But I do have hope that he steps out against this name and we can end Trumpism and MAGAism through the prodigal son. We'll see.
They're going to have a child. Loomer,
always a possibility. But I will say he does bear a striking resemblance in height to the head of security at Tiffany's in the first floor Trump Tower.
Chandler, these fear and house parks
are really tall.
Any favorite? I want to share my favorite line. It's not the in Springfield, they were eating the dogs will be forever in every debate when they're about to do it. But to me, because my father's name was Abdul, I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You don't do it anymore. You're going to have problems. Like he told Abdul, I know a lot of Abduls. In fact, Abdul's is a short form. The name's always like Abdul Musa or Abdul Rahman. It's like a bigger name. But Abdul wasn't even the name of the Taliban. There could have been an Abdul in the.
It was Paula Abdul. I don't know. He was all over TV.
Abdul?
Yeah.
Dude, but I'm wondering, you think all brown people to him are Abdul? That's how it goes?
Abdul, I was like, straight up, don't tell me. Do you really want to? He wrote me love letters.
This guy, I don't, at no other point in American history could a presidential candidate stand on stage and say, well, when I talked to Putin and Viktor Orban vouches for me, and I told my friend Abdul, and I wanted to have the Taliban over, like America.
Jong-un wrote me love letters.
This is insane. This is not normal,
It's not normal. And what about when he said the Charlottesville thing was a hoax? Laura Ingraham checked it. Sean Hannity, Jesse. He couldn't remember Waters. Like Jesse did it. And
the guy who hates the straws.
So
Jesse's girl doesn't even remember it right.
But these are his character witnesses.
Okay, and also not debunked at all. They think he kind of tap danced his way out of it, because sometimes he, like a lot of these speakers, will realize, oh crap, I just said that out loud in front of a bunch of people, and politically I need some wiggle room. So previously he was pretty good at programming in some wiggle room for himself when he realized I might need a way out of this later. And the way he does it most of the time is with this very well respected, everybody wanted this with Roe v. Wade. These people came very highly recommended, very well respected. What he means is, you guys talked me into this. If this goes bad, I took your advice. It's my fault.
With the
Charlotte, I didn't think of that way.
He's always got a ripcord. He's always got a ripcord in what he's talking about, just in case, because he knows he doesn't know what he's talking about. So he's always giving himself sort of an out. And the Charlottesville thing is the same way. He wanted you to believe that there were on the Tiki Torch side, there were these like, daughters of the American Confederacy, or sitting there going, my great grandfather fought for the dignity of the South, and that they were somehow mixed in with the group going, Jews will not replace us. It's horseshit. It always was. But he believes that out, and everybody else jumps on those lines in the same way they do peacefully and patriotically. Right. After he said peacefully and patriotically, also right before he improvised, you're going to fight or you're not going to have a country left. Peacefully and patriotically in the teleprompter. And then later on in the speech, just continually, like, we're going to have to do something or you're not going to have a country left. You're going to have to fight. You're going to have to raise your voice loud. You're going to have to, yeah. After he said peacefully and patriotically. So peacefully and patriotically was don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes. That's what he meant.
Yeah, the idea that's like you could be just every ISIS and Al Qaeda recruiter just has to say peacefully and patriotically in every kind of radicalization speech. Go, let me just get this out of the way. I'm being peaceful and patriotic. Now,
I'm just yelling, God is great. What's wrong with you? I'm just yelling, God is great.
And we're not going to let this happen. We're going to fight, and we're not going to have a country anymore. Yeah, he said fight literally 20 times. I went through the speech and kept fight or fighting. So what about, is there any line that stood out for you guys in the debate? Any debate line that didn't get as much attention or maybe got attention anyway that you liked the most?
So the thing that bums me out a little bit is it was really fun to see on TikTok the trending sound of us all making fun of Trump. But what we didn't get, because the vacuum got filled with Trump's absurdity, is how many times Kamala made a great point. And I think there's a lot of undecided voters that still are like, well, she didn't give me any policies. And all she did was give policies. I mean, she was giving out, she was making it rain some policies out there. And she had some incredible takes on things like abortion. Nobody wants incest pregnancies. Nobody wants to not be able to get the when you're having a miscarriage, the care that you need. Nobody wants this. I think that she held strong. She was extremely prepared. She had those one-liner things like, well, the Wharton School says that this plan is terrible, which we knew was to get under his skin because he went to that school. What I was more disappointed in is my clips of like me playing the trending sign. The dogs are eating their cats with vintage Alf footage.
Yeah.
Has like millions of views, but my clips of Kamala's policies are getting like tens of thousands of views because everything is about the absurdity. And so I think in some ways, she absolutely won the debate, but in some ways, did he win the meme and the buzz and the clips war the next day? And that's what a lot of people are going to base their decisions on. Did they hear anything from her, or did they just hear this as the takeaway?
I have to say that had he had zingers like he used to, like, because you'll be in jail or whatever about Hillary or those kind of things. And he clearly, that's what happened with Hillary. Like he won the war in it, but he didn't win on policy. She did. Right. The difference is, I really think, is that they at least had the illusion of substance. That you don't believe in justice, I believe in justice. If I was in charge, you'd be in jail. Is sort of it's better about it's a lie, it's an illusion, but it provokes the idea that he's on the side of the good things. But this yelling about they're eating the dogs and I have a concept of a plan, which are the two big loops that are going around.
Concept of a plan is
are terrible. And Trump you can live and die on this idea of there's no such thing as bad press. But you clearly, these days especially, there's a point where the needle hits red. And if you don't believe me, ask Cosby, ask Weinstein, ask any of these, ask Epstein, ultimately, that they could go for a long time. Strangely enough, you could, as long as your name was in the paper, you seemed important enough to leave alone. But there's a cresting point. And I think he really hit that cresting point this time with the dogs reference and the concepts of a plan. Because I think that's the one where dogs is funny, but if you've got that kind of dopamine jack of watching shit from it, the second thing you're going to go to after watching a few of the dog videos is concepts of a plan, which is the dumbest fucking thing he could have possibly said after 7 years of 2 weeks from now, I'm going to have a health care plan.
Right. But I'm going to just say, like, to me, what I love was the organic reaction of people. I saw college students watching the debate and Trump goes, in Springfield, they're eating the dogs, and they just started laughing hysterically. Yeah. And it wasn't a zinger. They were laughing at him.
Laughing at him.
Right. And I have concept of a plan. Vice President Harris just had a rally in North Carolina and said that, and the crowd organically laughed because so you're laughing at him. If he had done zingers that were getting laughs, I'd be much more worried. Like if he did a dig to Kamala And
That's
like,
what happened
wow,
before.
right? You
That's
lose that
arguably what happened before. Right. That's what happened with Hillary. And she was being presidential. She didn't want to stoop to his level, all those kind of things, which was valid. And at the time, again, she's carrying a weight as the first female candidate that other people aren't carrying. The same way that Obama was carrying a weight of being the first black candidate that, that made it. He was, he had to measure his response. That's where the joke, the Key and Peele thing came from, is he wasn't allowed to be as angry as he righteously had the sort of the moral base to be allowed to. He deserved to go, fuck you, dude, but he couldn't because of all the weight of just being see, black guys are angry, women are emotional, like they use that. He knows that.
Right.
The problem is this time we're at Trump is an emotional, forgetful, gibberish spewing wreck, and he played right into that. That was the narrative going into this, that he's kind of aging too. He's the oldest guy running now.
Well, I was at a debate party. I was at the debate party in Pennsylvania, and I was expecting to see our normal crowd of like all the Kamala creators and the Kids for Kamala and all the marginalized groups that come out for her. And I when I was looking at the audience, I was like, oh my God, did people bring their parents with them? But no, there were full-blown adults, Gen X and older, who were showing up to the Kamala post-debate Kamala rally because, and many of them that I spoke to were like, look, I used to be Republican. I'm just so sick of it. And this is a strategic vote for me. And honestly, I think it's a good vote for me. I think some of the stuff she's saying, it's clear that she's trying to meet us in the middle. She continues to welcome us. We don't feel welcomed by him. I don't want a dictator and an authoritarian. I think I'll vote for Kamala this time. And maybe we try to run Glenn Youngkin in 2028, or we'll see how it goes. But they're not just showing up to silently vote for her, which I think is happening because I live in the most Republican district in New York, upstate New York, and there are 2 Trump signs. Previous elections, the whole friggin' neighborhood was littered.
People have called me and said that a lot of that. I've had a lot of calls around the country.
There's no signs.
And they're actually seeing Harris signs.
We're seeing Harris signs.
They're actually seeing Harris signs now.
My neighbors stopping us to be like, hey, I just wanted to let you know it's going to be my first time voting blue. And I'm like, I'm so proud of you. But these people who were at this rally are genuinely there, and they're showing up to see if it's real, and they are being welcomed. So I think we're going to see the silent majority vote for her as a strategic move. And then their thing is, maybe in 2028, we could get back to that John McCain, John Kasich kind of Republican that I liked to be a part of. And I'm like, yeah, maybe, but I actually think they're going to enjoy their life under the Harris administration, and we'll see where it goes from here with them. I don't think we go back.
I agree. We're not going back.
We're not going back.
No, we're not going back. I do think the Democratic Party has become the big tent party, because you can have a legit conversation of liberal to conservative, progressive to conservative, whatever your outer boundaries are. All the legit, actual policy-driven, compromisable, non-extreme points. That entire real conversation can be had within the Democratic Party, like it or not, from the John Tester side and even the Manchin-esque side of that to the squad. That entire envelope, you can have a real conversation and come to policy agreements, pass some stuff. The Republicans are not. They have just wholly sold out their entire party to the MAGA crowd, and they fear losing that vote so much because they're already below water as far as registry. Right. Anyways, they can't afford to lose those votes, and those are the people who will take their ball and go home. So they got to kiss their ass nonstop.
Look, so let's take a step forward here. So right after the debate, Taylor Swift endorses Vice President Harris and says really nice things about Tim Walz as well. We know now, it's over 400,000, probably even more, Dee probably knows, visitors to vote.gov, a government website that directs users to state-specific voting information, because it wasn't just an endorsement, it was a call to action. Sophia, I want to start with you, especially you deal with a lot with the younger people. Where do you think this makes a difference?
I think it makes a huge difference. And I think whether you like Taylor Swift or not, she is the single most powerful figure when it comes to voter registration that we have right now, far beyond any ad or even Beyonce, even anybody. And I think I think she was clever in the way she crafted it. There were 3 points in the Taylor message that were important. One was, this man lied about me. He created visuals of me that were incorrect, which a lot of women I think the more we widen that gender gap, the less likely he is to win. We're already 14 points on the gender gap. She made it very relatable to women. When have men taken pictures of you and used them for their own gain or embarrassed you with them? A lot of that was in the background of the conversations I heard about the Taylor Swift endorsement. It also speaks to the bigger issues we have with big tech in our lives and AI and data privacy, people lying on you. And then when she said, so I want to make clear my position, I'm voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And Tim Walz is a figure that immediately connects to the LGBTQ community. He's a safe adult. He's one of these people that we can really trust. I think her endorsement was important important. But we got to remember the 400,000 people who went to her link are just the people who went to her link, and not this scores more people who just typed it in their computer. Right. Now, there was somebody who was saying, well, we got to get Travis to endorse too, because that'll get the jabronis. I'm like, the jabronis are not going to switch over, first of all. And second of all, you cannot compare what she has done with voter registration to anyone else. And then you have Caitlin Clark, who liked the comment, and then the press went crazy on her because she's supposed to be this Christian right-wing figure who gives a permission structure to these people to hate Black athletes. And Caitlin Clark, who really needs to do more work when it comes to fighting racism in her league, gets on the mic and is like, I think it was about voter registration. And to me, there's nothing more important than ensuring that you're registered to vote too. So we got to double down. But she did kind of a little bit endorse Kamala Harris, which, tamps down maybe some of the crazy in the WNBA comment sections. But I think it's not just Taylor. It's the permission structure Taylor gave to everyone else to be a part of it again.
And by the way, Hal, I want to get your reaction, but also the scumbag Elon Musk, who's just unbearable. Him and JD Vance are a fight to the bottom of unbearableness. They truly, the worst frat boy douchebag people. So he says,
wannabe. By the way, Elon Musk, both of them wannabe frat boy douchebag.
I was going to say, frat boys don't act like that.
No, right. It's one of these things. It's like, for all the beta male talk and the low T talk that happens, these two guys are a prime example of that very criticism of guys, basically the little dog in the Warner Brothers cartoon going, hey, wait up, Spike. That's who they are. And they act in the most egregious and sort of aggressive ways to try to show off to the alleged, whether it's Joe Rogan or some rando UFC fighter that they believe has, got, stacked muscles and a thick neck, which is, either their dream guy or their dream self. I don't know which. But whatever.
It's a little bit of both, right? Maybe. They do reserve all their love for other men. There is no love for women. There is only love for men.
Anger at women, too. Like, those of us that are comfortable in this, I don't know. I don't even get that reaction. But in his case, like Musk's thing.
And in case people don't know, let me just say that he posted, fine, Taylor, you win. I'll give you a child and guard your cats with my life. And
which was so
give
weird.
You a child, you piece of garbage. So,
just creepy as crap.
Yeah,
I mean, the defenders came out, the Grok driven AI bots on Twitter that are designed to protect him at all fronts. Yeah. Tens of thousands of them that are fake accounts. And again, we could solve all of this with simply a law in the United States that says if there's a bot online, it has to be labeled. There's nothing wrong with having them. If you want to have them, if United Airlines customer bot wants to be a bot, I have no problem talking to it if it's charming and will get me the help I need. I don't need to annoy a person with my flight information stuff or my lost baggage. I don't have a problem with that. But label it. That's all. And if you did that, Twitter would collapse in an afternoon. That's why. Complain about how many bots were on it before he bought it to try and drive the price down. And then when he got in, the number of bots has grown exponentially. And he's got an army of them backing him up everywhere he goes. And he likes it for his ego. The problem is there are a lot of people, and you could spot them, in especially the right wing. And this is how that whole fucking dog eating shit started, was that they think Twitter or Facebook or TikTok or whatever is a window. And it isn't. It's a highly regulated algorithm that's designed to feed your dopamine cycles and feed you more of what you want. It's effectively Asperger's in a can. And it is designed by people who believe that, if you want this, you obviously want more of this. You don't want diversity of thought. You don't want diversity of ideas. You want more of whatever you were just clicking on, and a lot of it. And he has fallen into his own trap. You can tell he now, but previously, maybe he knew Twitter wasn't a window to the world. It was it was a specific lane, but now he thinks it is. And now he's believing his own bot fields, and just it's become like a self-referencing cycle.
I wonder how this will play with the Russian propaganda stuff that's going on with Canada and the DOJ investigation, shutting down the bot farms and the tenant media and all that.
You'll notice
waiting for that to shut down.
Yeah. You'll notice that the Justice Department just busted 4 black rights activists in the Uhuru movement and that stuff or whatever, who are these like low res quasi-socialist, radical organization, terrorist kind of fringy, whatever. But they were doing basically the same thing within BLM and other things. They were feeding into that. the same way Tenet Media was doing on the right, because Russia doesn't care about either argument. They care about dystopia. And so, but you won't see anyone on Twitter or Ben Shapiro or any of these people coming to the rescue of the Uhuru movement's right, to be socialist online and said it was just free speech. They're Russia. They're attacking the blacktivists again. Like, you're not going to hear that, right? Because it only matters when it's them.
I agree. All right, so we're going to squeeze in a very quick break. We're going to come back, talk a little bit more about TikTok and the divide in terms of how much pro-Harris stuff versus Trump. And I'm really, V, since you live in that space, to get your sense. And John Bon Jovi saved a life. It's not the name of a song. It actually happened. So let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with more of what just happened right after this. And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're continuing what just happened with V Sphere and Hal Sparks. A lot to break down. So, V, you have a huge presence on TikTok. I just saw there was a study that came out by Zelf. I guess it's a social analytics firm. 71% of the top posts on TikTok about the campaign in this week, the whole week, were pro-Harris, just 24% pro-Trump. And there's a lot of negativity about Trump. Like, it's almost a mirror. 70% of that are negative on Trump. What's going on? And how much has it changed since when Biden was the candidate to now?
Oh, the flip has been outrageous. I mean, there are so many people who were never Biden and anti-Biden that are now willing to separate Kamala from the last 4 years and understand that she was the vice president and really want this second chance. So I think straight off, immediate flip, it was like a complete slate wash. I had never seen anything like it. There were some people I never thought we would get who are now proudly like, we have to get this woman elected and then we'll hold her accountable. It's like all reason came back to them and they felt heard. I think especially some of the younger folks who really, their primary issue is what's going on in the Middle East and they want to see peace there. And they felt like if she had picked Shapiro, they weren't going to trust her. If she picked Tim Walz, which is who they wanted, they would trust her. She picked Tim Walz for a myriad of reasons, but they felt very heard through that. And so we saw a great flip towards Harris because we had this glimmer that maybe America could be for us too. Maybe patriotism is something we could reclaim. Maybe it doesn't, maybe it's not over and I'm willing to have it not be over. I want to give it a try. So I think that was part of it. The other thing, and I've said this about TikTok for all 4 years, TikTok rewards positivity. It's why I'm so popular on the app. Every Thursday I do good news and I'm very happy and I make it nice and easy for you. TikTok their overall goals are like complacency and like content. Where Facebook and Meta platforms are more driven, as we know from their reporting, by the anger emoji and by anger and rage baiting. So I am not surprised that the positive campaign and the campaign of joy and forwardness and we could do this and let's get together and let's be happy is doing a lot better on TikTok than Trump's messages because TikTok rewards positivity. Now, that's not. People are probably listening. They're like, I see a ton of hateful stuff. You do, but I promise you see less on TikTok than you do on Facebook.
That's interesting. What about you?
Yeah. So I stream on 4 sites. I'm not on TikTok for a myriad of reasons, largely because of my time in China and my awareness of the background of that. And I find it to be malware, but that's another thing. And one of the reasons why it rewards positivity in its algorithm, why it's designed to do that, is because it's part of a rope pull strategy that the Chinese government has with TikTok. This is just true. What they do, they did it on Twitter and Facebook and others, which is, if you'll notice, go back and look at how many of the cat video sites suddenly became pro Sarah Palin back in the day, or the video sites like, oh, cute video on Twitter, like all the time. Like, you'll see a bunch of these sites and then all of a sudden, like, Kamala Harris is a commie, or, she says she's not even, they turn like that. Okay. Cause those are dummy sites created up to feed the algorithm the way it's designed. So they cheer you up and then they lure you in. Oh, this is harmless. Fun. I'll just add it to my feed.
The 20% thing, 80% happy, 20% propaganda, and it doesn't get caught.
And the 20% propaganda is designed specifically to be horrifyingly propagandist, racist beyond measure, that kind of stuff. That's the design of it. And that's why the algorithm in the United States for TikTok is different than the algorithm in China. Now, since threats about removing TikTok have happened, they have tailored the thing and kind of taken their hands off a little bit, which is partly why you're seeing such a flood of positive posts about Harris reaching the top, is because the CCP's releasing some control because they're afraid if they put too much control on it, legislation will pass and it will get kicked out. That's their worry. So they have this is a strategy. This is not an accident.
Right.
And when it comes to Facebook, you're absolutely right. So I'm on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, and what's the other one? On Instagram. And I'm going to be on Truth has just announced that you're going to be able to live stream on there. It may cost me a fee, but you're goddamn right. I'm going to put my show on that network
on
just
Truth
so they have
Social?
to scroll by it. Oh, yeah.
Before
just
it
so
shuts
they have
down.
to scroll by it. Oh, yeah. Before it dies in October. But I mean, come on.
Stock price is like at 15.
But anyway, go ahead. So great. Yeah, it's a super business. But one of the things I joke about all the time is I always welcome trolls into my chat, and I want them to feel comfortable. I just don't want them to use racial epithets so their comment gets removed, because the algorithm not only sees who's watching, but how engaged you are. And trolls, by typing, jack up engagement. So I show up in their feed. There's another thing in YouTube that says those who watch this also watch that. So the trolls that come in, they put me in that feed, whether they control it or not, in everybody else that watched the other stuff they watch. So it's like a truth bomb. I can, little truth IEDs, for lack of a less horrifying analogy. But the other thing is, I always tell my chat room, if you're on Facebook, give me the angry emoji right now. Like top of the show. Yeah, just hit the angry emoji. I don't know. I don't care if you're mad. How they have an angry one and a happy one and a crying one, another one. There's like 5 standard ones. There's other ones, but if you hit the angry one, it boosts me up in the Facebook algorithm like that. And that's just brutally horrifying.
Wow. Where have I been? How am I missing?
I'm going to use that one, Hal. I'm taking that. Yeah, we're going to be angry now.
What I did find with Facebook during the campaign, the last campaign, I would have these Trump supporters saying, "Why is your stuff coming up in my feed?" I'm like, I'm not posting these for you. I'm not here to get you angry. Facebook was feeding my pro-Biden stuff to them, and they were coming over, and I would post a thing that I tag. I'm like, if you're a Trump supporter, I don't want you here. You're not supposed to be here. Only Facebook wants you here to engage because they want you to be angry. So don't waste anyone's time. And it worked a little bit because we're all manipulated. Like they're manipulated into a fight. I have no interest in fight with them.
Well, yeah, your trolls watch you.
Right.
And that goes into their feed. And they, again, this kind of bottled Asperger's that they've created, this kind that's the design of it. It is designed to be singular of focus and exclusion of anything that even resembles variety. That's the point. And in doing so, it doesn't know. It just knows your trolls. Oh, your troll seems to like this. It doesn't know what you're feeling. It just means, wow, they really need this. So therefore, they'll need this too, and this too, and this too. And that's why you showed up in their feed.
I think it's great. I'm chatting with V-Sphere and Hal Sparks. One thing here before we have to try to get to Bon Jovi, but this fight between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Laura Loomer, it is. First of all, it's like when I watch the Giants play the Patriots, I just root for injuries, right? So I'm like, oh, just hurt each other. But the comment Marjorie Taylor Greene made about Laura Loomer, who posted, I'm not going to even quote it, brutally racist garbage about Vice President Harris. Greene, and we all know our history, said this is appalling and extremely racist. It doesn't represent who we are as Republicans or MAGA. This does not represent President Trump. This type of behavior should never be tolerated. It's like what we've said about you forever. Like, so I don't understand what's going on. I guess it's a power fight. I mean, V, is it just about who could have more influence on their beloved Grand Wizard, Donald Trump, or what else is going on here?
I mean, yes, it's exactly that. It's the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks that Donald Trump was going to pick her and he wasn't. And now he's got Laura Loomer hanging all over him. He won't even hug Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she's trying to present it as like, well, I'm the classier. I'm the more high value. I'm the more safe bet. And he's like, I don't care. I like crazy. I like crazy. I like crazy and young. This is for me. But there's this TikToker, Francesca Ramsey, who I love, who sings this song, I never thought the leopards would eat my face, about how like all these people are participating in these hateful games, and then eventually a hateful game comes their way, and every single time it's just a banger dead on. So Francesca Ramsey, the leopards eat my face song is exactly what's going on here.
Hal, is that really it? It's just, do you think there's going to be a real fight though between MAGA or not really? I mean, it all depends the next 2 months till election day.
Let's say you're in a car and you're on your way to a family holiday or something like that, and you're driving through, an area close to Yellowstone, and you see 3 wolves eating a deer, right? Or, and then one of the other wolves bites one of the other wolves while it's happening. you pull over and finish watching, or you just go, this is going to play itself out and it's not going to matter in the great scheme of things, in the rolling asteroid headed towards Earth and the advancement of humans to quasi cyborgs living in space because we've created a genetic way to harden our arteries against the cold of space in 3,000 years. Will that little thing matter? No. In the same way, in the fall of MAGA, in the dwindling importance and the active measures taken by the Republican Party to try and get rid of this crap, which is increasing by the day. And again, I think there's a strategy to this. People blamed like Merrick Garland for not acting fast enough on Trump and all these kind of things. But if you look, one need only look at the response to the Mar-a-Lago raid and having one MAGA dude show up at the Cincinnati FBI office with a gun and know that you have to destroy this man's mythology before you put him in jail, because you have to break the spell on the vast group of people, the Jan 6 crowd, which is still small, but fierce and enough to cause trouble.
They can sing. Have you heard them sing? They're delightful singers.
There's 300 of them in every state, and most state capitals are pretty small buildings. So you got to consider this when you're taking him down. So you got to flatten him as you got to, like Drago, he's got to have a cut under his eye so you realize he's a man. And there's an element of that's what they've been doing. That's why the order of these cases mattered. That's why the E. Jean Carroll thing mattered more to almost any of this than anything else. And his inability to just let it go. Even his followers who think she's lying think he should just written a $5 million check, told her to go fuck herself, and never mentioned her again. Right. And he couldn't do it. And it cost him another. And they're like, oh, this guy's weak. He's just spun. He's stupid.
I think that's an interesting point, Hal. I mean, they can keep Laura Loomer away from him if they wanted to. He's got control. There's extremely controlled access to him. Why are they letting this lunatic woman so close to him and to be so open with this pseudo philandering thing, unless it, like every Republican I know, is like, I just want MAGA to be over with. Like, is this the sleeper agent?
She came off the MAGA plane. She came off Trump's plane. She had her MAGA sweatshirt on backwards. It was clear they had made out. We know it. Like 8th grade.
So gross, guys. It's so gross.
I'm so sorry.
I don't know which side is grosser. Just with his,
no, for real. And
it's equally gross.
Botox. It can't be like a good kiss. I don't know. I don't want to think anymore about it.
I think like Julie Roberts,
it's like the first 20 minutes of the movie Mannequin without the actual change. Like if the rest of the movie was just a dude actually fucking a mannequin.
Oh my God.
I apologize to everyone watching for all the mental images that have been created by Hal.
I know.
By us. Wait.
Okay, but all of us collectively.
Not us. Referentially, this is happening in reality, Dean. He really is taking these pictures of the woman. She's really on his butt. She really did toast to the death of the conservative movement with Nick Fuentes.
I know.
And now Nick Fuentes is turning on Trump, which is BS to give him cover. And she is flying on the plane.
And
think about
he's
that.
a Holocaust. Nick Fuentes, Holocaust denier. She's a big supporter, right-wing supporter of Israel. How these two find common ground, I imagine it's in white nationalism and a hatred of Muslims. She really hates Muslims. I've known her for years. We used to have a brawl on Twitter when I used to care years ago about it. She was so violently anti-Muslim. She wasn't famous. She was just a troll. But all right, let's talk about something nice here.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's enough.
Right.
They're both violently anti-Muslim. Forget that.
Oh, yeah.
That's enough. Believe me, that'll be enough.
Hal, you're in music. John Bon Jovi, down at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame filming a music video, saw a woman on the bridge in Nashville, and him and a person he was with went over, and the person was going to jump off the bridge, and they talked the woman into not doing it, and then he hugged her. And so, look, I mean, do you think he quoted Bon Jovi lyrics? Like, what do you think he did?
Take my hands, we'll make it, I swear. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I thought it was bad form when the woman started going, whoa, 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 whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
So that was Bon Jovi. That's very funny.
Side story: the chorus of that song, "Living on a Prayer," was written when Bon Jovi allegedly had a false AIDS test. That he believed he was waiting for his second test to find out if he was positive or not. And he and his wife had this sit down conversation about what might happen and what they're going to do. And got to hold on to what we got. It doesn't make a difference if we make it or not. we got each other, and that's a lot for love. Da, 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 da. And then when it came back negative, he just turned it into basically a Bruce Springsteen song.
But an anthem, right? A New Jersey anthem. You're absolutely right. It became him and Richie Zambora doing that. And that whoa, 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 which is
whoa.
He does it right in the thing there. Well, look, it's a nice story, though.
I don't even need one of those devices. I can do it. Yeah. Anyways.
By the way, V, have you ever, I mean, I think it's an impressive thing. I like Bon Jovi. He's Italian. I'm half Italian. He's from Jersey and all that kind of stuff. But in a sea of bad news at times, it's actually a good story. I liked it.
I just can't imagine like the mental frame. How is she going? So put yourself in the shoes of this woman and you're like, you've gotten to a place where this is what you're going to do. She was on the other side of the railing. And then you hear the voice of John Bon Jovi. I would have thought like I had already jumped. I'd be like, this is the most fever dream thing to ever happen. It would be like, I mean, the only
the Nixon's, it's like the Nixon story from The Good Guys. Do you see the Ryan Gosling, Russell Crowe movie, The Good Guy? Where they tell this story about this guy this true story, a guy who was in a motorcycle accident in front of Nixon's motorcade. And then, they all got out and ran over to this guy, Nixon included. And he was like, "You're going to be okay, son." And then the guy died. And the question is, does this guy think that
Nixon
when he was dying,
took him to heaven?
You just see Nixon before you die. That's what happens to everybody.
Yeah. Think about it.
But I'm glad for him. I really think if I were in a sad situation, John Bon Jovi could definitely take me out of it. And I appreciate that. Yeah.
It depends on the
great guy.
Rose wasn't there. I'm just saying. Vince Neil.
Rick Astley could have helped people a lot. I think
could have, yeah.
There are other people from the Twisted Sister, Dee Snider. I mean, Dee's
I don't know if
he's got good energy.
I don't know if that coming at me though would have been a little bit more of a jump scare than handsome.
He's one of the happiest, most fun people to approach you. There are definitely metal dudes that if they were coming towards you, you'd be like, I gotta go. Even if you weren't gonna jump, you're like, here comes Blackie Lawless from Wasp. Everybody on the other side of the bridge. But yeah, I mean. This I don't even know.
It was a very nice thing, and we really don't have any time. But I thought it was an interesting thing. I didn't know after James Earl Jones died that Joe Biden put out a statement saying that they both had a stutter, and that James Earl Jones overcame it, and Biden knew that, and it was one of his inspirations in life. And I'm like, well, that's kind of a beautiful thing because you never would have thought for a second. James Earl Jones, that booming voice, his articulation is so remarkable that he ever had a stutter. And it meant a lot to Joe Biden, I'm sure, to other people who had the same thing. All right. So before we run out of time, V, where can people find more of your work? You're doing great stuff. Where can they check it out?
Thank you. Yeah, you can find me at Under the Desk News on all platforms. And you can also listen to my show, American Fever Dream. We publish on Tuesdays and Thursdays with the Betches Media Network. Just gives you a look at what's going on in the American experience. And we try to make it a little bit funny.
It's great stuff. And my friend Hal, what about you? You've always got a bunch of stuff going on.
Yeah, infotainmentwars.com will take you to Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide, which I do every afternoon. I do about 20 hours worth of programming every week. And we're getting 11,000 people in my chat room for the debate review afterward. It was pretty extraordinary. Little old me. That's a lot of questions to answer, let me tell you. And it's pretty awesome. And then Sexy Liberals coming to Phoenix. We're still on tour through it. We're the right before the election. We're in LA on November 2nd. I think it is the Saturday before it. And Mark Hamill is our guest, which would be fantastic. We're doing Phoenix, Durham, Raleigh, Durham, and which I think is necessary. And then of course our we might add some more, but we're definitely the last one will be right before the inauguration because we're going to win and she's going to win. And on one minor note from before, I want you to know this as an actor, most of the people you think of, oh my God, what an amazing voice, from Christopher Walken to James Earl Jones and stuff. All of those people had speech difficulties or specific speech pattern problems or stutters or a lisp or pronunciation issues or whatever. They had to work extra hard on it. So that's why they're the voice you remember, because their voice stands out as the most important voice because they had to work that much harder.
Well, Walken's is different. Like, the guy, where are my happy days?
What he's saying,
How did he get that?
But who he is.
When I went to Saturday Night Live and he would host, everyone the entire week in the halls were like, "What are you doing? Where is my soda? How can you not? You hear him and he catches you guys. It was great. V and Hal, you're both great. I love very much chatting with you.
Thanks, V. It's nice to meet you too.
Yeah, good to meet you, Hal. Thanks.
Have a great weekend, everyone.